You to Hardcore Course in Miracles, and we're going to talk about how to recognize the problem so the problem can be solved. Do you want all your problems solved? Do you want to be able to have all your problems solved? Well, you want to definitely check out this Course in Miracles presentation here on Facebook Live. And I'm Earl Purdy, and we're going to get into let me recognize the problem so the problem can be solved. Lesson 79 in the Course in Miracles workbook. But we're going to start out with our theme song from John Christmas at johnchristmas.com. We are one. Here we go. So good to have you here. Here we go.
There's a call for God, I see it everywhere. Everybody's running scared, and everything is turning upside down. But the words I hear, they keep coming through from deep inside of me and you. It's telling us that love is who I am. You and me were not that far apart. Yeah, we're bleeding the same heart. We've been together from the start. Tell me, can you hear it? Tell me, can you feel it? Put your arms around it and know that we are one. Yeah, yeah, we are one. Now let's come together and understand that Christ was born inside of every man. He's waiting for us to choose Him as ourselves. When you choose Him, you know you choose me too. And everyone becomes a part of you. And then you will know that love is who I am. You and me were not that far apart. Yeah, we're beating the same heart. We've been together from the start. Tell me, can you hear it? Tell me, can you feel it? Put your arms around it and know that we are one. Yeah, yeah, we are one. Oh, we are one.
Welcome, mighty companions. I'm Earl Purdy. I want to welcome you to Hardcore Course in Miracles, right here on Facebook Live. We're going to be doing lesson 79 in the Course in Miracles workbook called Let Me Recognize the Problem So It Can Be Solved. Do you want your problem solved? We're going to talk about what the Course in Miracles says about how to have your problems solved. It's on page 141 in the Course in Miracles text, the Foundation for Inner Peace, the Course in Miracles workbook in the Foundation for Inner Peace version of the Course in Miracles. Guess what?
Yeah, we're beating the same heart. we've been together from the start. Tell me, can you hear it? Tell me, can you feel it? Put your arms around it and know that we are one. Oh, we are one. Yeah, yeah, we are one. Oh, we are one. I am you, and you are me.
That's John Christmas at johnchristmas.com. So if you want to get that music, welcome to Hardcore Course in Miracles. I'm Earl Purdy. We're going to be on lesson 79. Let me recognize the problem so the problem can be solved. We're talking about solving any problem according to the Course in Miracles and how you go about doing that. Hardcore Course in Miracles. That's what I do on Thursday nights. It's especially geared toward people who are students of A Course in Miracles, even though, of course, I welcome anyone to watch this presentation on Facebook Live, and you can benefit from it if you're open-minded. But primarily, I'm focused in on those who want to learn the Course in Miracles and really want to do the practical application of the Course in Miracles in your day-to-day experience. I've been teaching and learning the Course in Miracles for 40 years. And I have been doing it full time as my function in the world for over 30 years. And so I'm here to be especially helpful and beneficial to those who are studying A Course in Miracles, as well as those who don't, but especially those who are studying A Course in Miracles. And we're on page 141 in the Course in Miracles workbook in the Foundation for Inner Peace version of the Course in Miracles. So there are certain guidelines. I'm the divine repetition teacher. I'm the divine remembering teacher. I call myself DRT or TRT. And the reason why I do that is because the Course in Miracles many times in the material constantly says, remember, don't forget. Remember, don't forget. It says remember and don't forget literally hundreds of times, because the Course in Miracles teaches that the key to utilizing new thought and new truth is remembering what the new thought and the new truth that you're learning is. So remembering is much more important than analyzing. So I am not a teacher who analyzes the Course in Miracles. My focus is on being an instrument for people to be able to hear what it's saying, remember what it's saying, and then to use the ideas. So at the beginning of the workbook of the Course in Miracles, it kind of gives the instructions that you should use when you're studying the Course in Miracles. It's called the guidelines for the Course. And I'm going to give you the guidelines for the Course right now. Here we go. Remember only this. Remember only this. Remember only this. Remember only this. You need not believe the ideas. You need not accept the ideas. You need not even welcome the ideas. You need not even welcome the ideas. Some of the ideas you may actively resist. Some of the ideas you may actively resist. Some of these ideas in the Course in Miracles you may actively resist. Some of the ideas in the Course in Miracles you will find hard to believe. I'll say it again. Some of the ideas you may find hard to believe. Some of the ideas you may actively resist, and some of the ideas you may find hard to believe. Listen to me now. Some of these ideas you may find hard to believe. Some of these ideas you may find hard to believe. And others may seem quite startling. Some of the ideas in the Course in Miracles may startle you. Some of the things that I'm going to say, you may have resistance to. Some of the things the Course in Miracles says, you may find hard to believe. I'm telling you now, some of the ideas in the Course in Miracles, you may find very hard to believe. You are not asked to judge the ideas at all. That means you're not asked to analyze the ideas at all. I'm not going to analyze the ideas with you because the Course in Miracles teaches that the analyzation of it rather than the hearing of it and the remembering of it and the using of it, the analyzation of it actually destroys the meaning of it. So the Course says, if you want to see that the ideas in the Course in Miracles are true, if you want to recognize the truth of the ideas in A Course in Miracles, if you want to know the ideas are true, if you want to see the ideas work, well then the Course in Miracles says, that you have to use the ideas. The Course in Miracles says if you want to see that the ideas are true, you have to use the ideas. Use the ideas. It says their use will give the ideas meaning to you and will show you that the ideas are true. It's so good to have you, my mighty companions, here with me live. I do the Course in Miracles live so that we can interact with each other and we can also be focusing on the truth together at the same time. And we have viewers from all over the world. So you have a lot of mighty companions that are joining you in their desire to practice A Course in Miracles. Now remember, we're going to do lesson 79. Let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. On page 141 in the Course in Miracles workbook. So I'm going to get started right now. Don't forget to share this video. So I'd like to ask you, first of all, to take a breath, Let's tune in. Let's tune in to each other. You and I, let's tune in to each other right now. You and I. And I'm going to go through it, and I use a lot of repetition because our goal is to remember what it's telling us to do and to do it. The Course in Miracles says that your understanding is not a powerful contribution. That's right. That was a nice little ego trick, wasn't it? To try to disrupt what we were doing. That's okay. That's all right. I'm back. I'm here. Yeah, now here we go. This is going to be a good one. The ego has been really trying to act up this evening. We all fall down sometime. Yeah, so anyway, here we go. Are you ready? Let me recognize the problem so the problem can be solved. Say that to yourself. Let me recognize the problem so the problem can be solved. Let me recognize the problem so the problem can be solved. Let me recognize the problem so the problem can be solved. Let me recognize the problem so the problem can be solved. Here we go. Now, first thing it says is this. Listen to me. You can't solve a problem if you don't know what the problem is. A problem cannot be solved when you don't know what the problem is. So the first thing the Course in Miracles is telling you is that whatever that problem is, and you can choose any problem you think you have, whatever that problem is that you think you have, unless you really know what the problem is, the problem can't be solved. Even if the problem is really already solved, you will still have the problem even if the problem has already been solved, because you won't recognize that the problem has been solved. So the first thing you want to know is, just because you don't recognize the solution, just because you don't recognize the problem for real. I know what you might think the problem is, but the Course in Miracles is saying, even if I've solved the problem for you, you will still have the problem if you don't recognize that the problem has already been solved. And this is the situation of the world. So, what is the situation of the world? The situation of the world is all the problems have already been solved. The answer to all the problems, the answer is available. The problem has been solved. But because the Course in Miracles says, if you don't know what the problem is, then the problem can't be solved. If the problem's already been solved, but you don't recognize it, then you still don't reap the benefits of the problem being solved. So what is the only problem? The only problem is separation. The only problem is separation. No matter what the problem looks like, no matter what the problem looks like that you may think you have, or we may think that the world has, the Course says the problem of separation, which really is the only problem, has already been solved. The problem of separation, which is the only problem, has already been solved. So if the problem has been solved, if your problem has been solved, but what is the problem? The Course in Miracles says, well, the problem is that the solution, the answer, is not recognized because the problem is not recognized. So the answer to your problem isn't recognized because the problem isn't recognized. So what does that mean? Well, it basically means if you have a problem that it looks like that you have not been able to solve, then no matter what that problem is, A Course in Miracles is saying the problem is that you don't recognize what the problem really is. That whatever that is that you have not been able to solve, the Course in Miracles says, well, the truth is you don't really recognize what that problem really is. And the only real problem is separation. Separation from each other. And most important, the problem is our sense of separation from God, our Creator. The only problem is separation. Being separated from love. The only problem is separation. Right now, we're going to go deeper, so don't try to understand it all right now. Right now, I'm just telling you what the problem is, whether you recognize it or not. Whether you recognize it or not, whether you understand it or not, whether you recognize it or not, whether you understand it or not, the only problem is the problem of separation from God, from love, from each other. The only problem is separation. You may think you have a financial problem. You may think you have a relationship problem. You may think you have a health problem. You may think you have a career problem. You may think you have a relationship problem. But no matter what the problem appears to be, the only problem is the problem of separation. And here's the good news. That problem of separation has already been solved. Don't try to understand that. The first thing you want to do is hear what the Course in Miracles is saying. So Everyone in this world seems to have his own special problems. You may seem to have your own special problems. Everybody seems to have their own special problems. Everyone in this world seems to have his own special problems. Yet, all problems are all the same. What? I'll say it again. Everyone in this world seems to have its own special problem. You seem like you have your own special problems, yet they are all the same. And all problems, all your problems, must be recognized as one. If the one solution that solves them all is to be accepted. So, what do you do if you want to? What must you do if you want to accept the answer to all your problems? The first thing you want to do is to recognize that all problems are the same. All problems are the same. Problems can look different. I'm not denying that it can look different. It can look like you have a lot of different problems. But the truth is, all problems are the same. If you want to receive the solution to all your problems, you must recognize that all problems are a reflection or an outpicturing of one problem. Who can see that a problem has been solved? How can you see that a problem has been solved if you think the problem is something else? How can you see that the problem has been solved if you think the problem is something else other than what the problem really is? How are you going to see that your problems have been solved as long as you are mistaken about what you think the problem really is? If someone gives you the answer to your problem, but you really think the problem is something else other than what the problem is, then even if someone gives you the answer, you won't see the relevance of the answer. For instance, if you don't have money right now and you think that's the reason why you're unhappy, and I tell you that, well, the truth is your money problem is not being, your unhappiness is not being caused by a lack of money. That your problem is really being caused by the fact that you've lost sight of your oneness and your connection to your source. That your separation from love, your separation from God, your separation is the problem. And one of the effects of the problem of separation, one of the effects of feeling separate from your source, God, it is whatever you're perceiving as a lack of money in your life or a lack of anything in your experience. If you knew your connection with your source, if you really knew your connection with your creator, if you really knew your connection with your creator, if you really knew your connection to love, then whatever problem that you think you have, it would be solved. So the Course in Miracles says, this is the position in which you find yourself now. What is the position in which you find yourself now? You have the answer. In the Course in Miracles, in the practical application of the workbook exercises, in studying the text in the Course in Miracles, and then studying the teacher's manual in the Course in Miracles, in doing the workbook lessons in A Course in Miracles and practically applying those lessons in your everyday life, the way you're being instructed, that would be the answer. You would see the solution to what you think of as all your problems. So that's the position that you find yourself now. You have the answer. You got the answer right before you. But you are still uncertain about what the problem is. You still are uncertain about what the problem is. You have the answer, but you're still uncertain about what the problem is. Listen to me. You have the answer. The Course in Miracles is the answer. It's not the only answer, but for some people, the answer is in the Course in Miracles. Now, the truth will come to you and will come to people in every way that they can receive it. There is one truth, but there are many ways to get to that one truth. So I'm not saying that the Course in Miracles in itself is the only way. I'm saying the Course in Miracles for some people is the way that they recognize the answer and allow their problems to be solved. You have the answer, but you are still uncertain about what the problem is. A long series of different problems seem to confront you. A lot of different problems seem to confront you. Do you know that it's possible that a lot of different problems seem to confront you? And as one problem is settled, the next problem and the next problem arises. There seems to be no end to problems. There is no time in which you feel completely free of problems. That's what the Course in Miracles says. So what is the position that you're in right now? Well, the position that you might find yourself right now is that you have the answer to all your problems, but you're still uncertain about what the problem is. It could look like there's a lot of different problems that seem to be confronting you right now. And it seems like as soon as you get one thing handled, another thing handled. So it seems like when you get one thing handled, then something else comes up. My mother used to say, if it ain't one thing, it's another. Have you noticed that as long as you've been here, that there seems to be one thing after another that comes up, some issue, some problem, some situation that you need to fix or that needs some kind of solution? Have you noticed that there is practically no time that you feel completely free of problems and at peace? So, I'm going to give you the one temptation that you have to be on the lookout for. What is the one temptation that you need to be on the lookout for? The temptation to regard problems as many is the temptation to keep the problem of separation unsolved. So what is it that keeps the problem unsolved? The temptation to regard problems as many. This is a very deep statement I'm about to tell you. If you want to go beyond your problem, if you want to go beyond your problems of when problems come up in your perception and you want to go beyond them, the temptation to regard your problems as many different problems, that's the temptation to keep the problem unsolved. So rule number one, if you want to have your problem solved, you need to start to remind yourself that no matter what the problem looks like, it's a reflection of the problem of separation, believing that you are separate from love, separate from your creator, separate from all that is. I'm giving you the real problem and the real solution. So do you know that the world seems to present you with a vast number of problems? Do you know that the world may seem to present you with a lot of different problems? And it will look like each one of these problems require what? A different answer. It seems like the world is presenting you with a lot of different problems to deal with. And it looks like these problems require, each different problem requires a different answer. It can seem like each different problem requires a different answer. If you believe that you are being presented with a vast number of problems that require a different solution or a different answer to each one of those problems, do you know what that perception is going to do? If you have the perception that you got a lot of different problems that need a lot of different answers, that perception places you in a position in which your problem solving must be inadequate and failure is inevitable. I'm going to repeat this because it takes a minute to hear what the Course in Miracles is saying. I'll say it to you again. It may look like right now you're being presented with a lot of different problems. And it may look like each one of those problems need a different answer. But when you believe you have a lot of different problems that needs a lot of different answers, it actually places you in a position where your problem solving is going to be inadequate and that you're going to fail. So the Course in Miracles says the reason why it looks like a person is having one problem after another problem that needs a lot of different answers is because that person does not recognize that all their problems are just a reflection and an outpicturing of one problem. So the first thing you want to remember is that all your problems are a reflection of one main problem that's already been solved, by the way. Do you know the next thing that you need to know about all the problems in the world? What is the next thing you need to remember about all the problems in the world? No one can solve all the problems the world seems to hold. No one can solve all the problems the world seems to have. No one can solve all the problems the world seems to hold. The problems that the world seems to hold are on so many levels and in such varying forms, and all the problems in the world seem to have such varied content that all the problems in the world or all the problems in your life can seem to confront you with an impossible situation. No one, including you, can solve all the problems the world seems to have. So, what happens when you regard all the problems that the world seems to have? What is it that can happen when you see all the problems that you think you have? Well, the Course in Miracles says dismay and depression are inevitable as you regard all the problems in the world, or maybe even all the problems that you're going through in your personal life. It's going to make you feel depressed. It can make you feel dismay. It can make you feel depressed. So let me describe how problems seem to operate, okay? So how do problems seem to operate? Well, the Course says some problems spring up unexpectedly. You have problems that come up unexpectedly. All of a sudden, dog, I got to get my transmission fixed on my car. Oh, I'm feeling some type of dismay because of the relationship that I'm going through. I'm having a problem all of a sudden in my relationship. The Course says some problems spring up unexpectedly. And when do those unexpected problems spring up? They spring up just as you think you resolved previous problems. Seems like as soon as you handle one thing, then it seems like something else comes up. Do you know that some problems remain unsolved? So why is it that some of your problems remain unsolved? Well, the Course in Miracles says some problems remain unsolved under a cloud of denial. So some people are in denial about their problems. Some people are in denial about the problem. And so some problems that you are in denial about, they rise to haunt you from time to time. And then that problem that you are in denial about most of the time, it's hidden again, but still unsolved. So all these problems, the problems that come up unexpectedly, the problems that come up because you're in denial about them, the Course in Miracles calls that complexity. Does it look like you have complex problems? Does it look like you have complex problems? Do it look like you have complex problems? Well, the Course in Miracles says all this complexity is but a desperate attempt. Complexity is a desperate attempt not to recognize the problem. So by focusing on what you think of as the complexity of a problem, that's really nothing but a desperate attempt not to recognize the real problem and to not let the problem be resolved. So if you tell yourself that you're dealing with a very complex problem, that's just a desperate attempt not to recognize the problem so the problem can be solved. So don't tell me how complex your problems are. Don't tell yourself how complex your problems are, because complexity is nothing but what? It's a desperate attempt not to recognize the problem and therefore not to let the problem be solved. If you could recognize, if you could recognize, if you could recognize, if you could recognize what? If you could recognize that your only problem is separation, no matter what form the problem takes, if you could recognize that your only problem is thinking that you're separate from God, your only problem is thinking that you are separate. The Course in Miracles says if you could recognize that, no matter what problem that you think you have, no matter what form the problem appears in, if you would just say, my real problem is separation. My real problem is separation. I think I'm separate from God. I think I'm separate from God. I think I'm separate from love. I think I'm separate. I think I'm separate. The only problem is separation. No matter what it looks like, my only problem is separation. No matter what it looks like, your only problem is separation. If you were to accept that your only problem is separation, you could accept the answer. You could accept the solution because you would see the relevance of the answer. You could see the relevance of the solution if you would just tell yourself, even if you don't believe it, even if you don't believe it, even if you don't see how this is relevant, even if you don't see how what I'm saying is relevant to what you're going through. Remember that I just said, and the Course in Miracles just said, that if you don't recognize the problem, then when someone gives you the answer, you won't see the relevance of the answer. And so since you probably think your problem is something other than a separation from source, a separation from God, which absolutely has already been solved, then when you are given the answer to your problem, you won't see the relevance of the answer. If you believe that the problem is something other than separation, then when I tell you what the real problem is, you won't see the relevance of the answer. Perceiving, what is it that you need to see? You need to perceive the underlying constancy. What is the one constant in all your problems? What is the one constant in all the problems that seem to confront you? If you understood that all the problems that seem to confront you are just different variations of the one problem of separation, then do you know you would understand that you have the means to solve all your problems? Do you know that you have the means to solve all your problems? Do you know that the Course in Miracles right now is giving you the means to solve all your problems? The Course in Miracles is giving you the means to solve all your problems. All you have to do right now is be willing to entertain the idea that your only problem is separation. Even if you don't understand how that is your only problem, even if you think the problem is something else, that's okay. But what I'm doing is telling you what the real problem is. And the real problem is separation. And every bit of pain, any problem that it looks like you're going through, it is a reflection of that one idea of separation. The Course in Miracles, I'm going to say this to you, to the Course in Miracles students out there. The Course in Miracles is a spiritual discipline. It's a spiritual discipline. It's not a personal growth, self-help book that would allow, that's teaching you how to be more successful out in the physical world, or to how to meet your soul mate, or how to make more money, or how to have a more successful career. That is not the purpose of A Course in Miracles. If you're studying A Course in Miracles because that's your primary goal, then I would suggest after 40 years of teaching and studying the Course that you're reading the wrong material. The Course in Miracles is about undoing our sense of separation from God, our sense of separation from each other, and our sense of separation from peace, and remembering who we really are, that we are creators, that we are unlimited creators, that we are love, and that we are not victims, and that everything that we are seeing and perceiving is coming from our thoughts. So the Course in Miracles is a course in mind training, training you to think differently, to look at things differently in such a way that you keep your peace. The goal of the Course in Miracles is the peace of God, the peace of love, peace. Because A Course in Miracles teaches that if you have peace, then you can hear the voice of your own inner guidance, God, Spirit. Do you understand? You have the divine inside of you. The divine is communicating with you. You don't hear that communication because of all the things that you are thinking, because the Course in Miracles says we don't hear the guidance that's coming from our higher self because we're too busy listening to what we are telling ourselves. So if you could first of all remind yourself that no matter how many complicated problems you think you have, the only problem that you have is a sense of separation from Source, God. And so if you would recognize that there's an underlying constancy in all the problems that seem to confront you, you would also understand that you have the means to solve all your problems, and then you would use the means to solve all your problems because you recognize the problem. So before a person is able to utilize the solution to their problem, they have to recognize what the problem is. Now, in our practice right now, what I want you to do, because on Thursdays this is hardcore course, so we're going to apply what we are hearing. So today we will ask, what is it that we are going to ask? We're going to ask what the problem is, and then you're going to ask what is the answer to the problem. And then you will not, I repeat, you will not assume that you already know what the problem is and that you already know what the answer is. So the first thing that you do, if you're going to practice the Course in Miracles, is you're going to ask what the problem is. Okay, I ask what the problem really is. I know what I might think the problem is, but right now I'm going to ask what the problem is. I'm going to ask, what is the answer to the problem? What is the answer to this problem? What is the answer to this problem? What is this problem? And what is the answer to this problem? And I won't assume I already know. Stop assuming you already know. So what do? Well, you want to try to free your mind from all the many different problems that you think you have. What's the first thing you want to do? You want to free your mind. You want to free your mind from all the different kinds of problems that you think you have. You're going to try to realize that you only have one problem. You want to try to realize that you only have one problem, a problem that you fail to recognize. We only have one problem, but it's a problem we fail to recognize. We will ask what the problem is, then we'll wait for the answer, and we will be told. Then we will ask for the solution to the problem, and we will be told. So that's how you move towards solving all of your problems. First of all, you want to get rid of the idea that you're dealing with a lot of different kinds of problems. You want to recognize that you really have only one problem that you just don't recognize. Then you will ask what the problem is. Then you will wait for the answer, and you will be told what the problem is. And then you will ask for the solution. Then ask for the solution to the problem, and you will be told. Now, I'm giving you very specific instructions from A Course in Miracles, so please don't think it doesn't work if you haven't actually done what A Course in Miracles is saying. Do you know that I noticed in working with people for many, many years now, that sometimes people get upset and think that, let's say for instance, they don't think the Course in Miracles is working. But are you really doing what it says? Have you really done what I'm saying right now specifically? Have you really read and studied the Course in Miracles to the point that you really remember what it's saying? So, is it really right to expect to get the results of something that you're not really doing? And you're innocent if you're not. But if you will see that I'm giving you very specific instructions from the course. First, you ask what the problem is, and then you ask what the answer is. You don't assume you already know what the answer is, and you want to free your mind from all the many different kinds of problems that you think you have. You want to realize what? That you only have one problem that you fail to recognize. And then you want to ask what the problem is, and you want to wait for the answer. And you're going to be told. And then you ask what the problem is, and you will be told. Then you ask what the answer is, and you will be told. This is what the Course in Miracles promises. So the exercises will be successful. What you're doing will be successful to what extent? To the extent to which you do not insist on defining the problem. Stop insisting on defining the problem. You don't know what your problem is. I know you know what you think your problem is, but if the problem hasn't been solved and you still keep having that problem over and over and over again, it means that you don't know what the real problem is. Any problem that hasn't been solved is a problem that you don't know what the real problem is. So you will be successful. You will be successful. You will be successful to the extent that you do not insist on defining the problem. Perhaps you won't succeed in letting all your preconceived notions about what the problem is go. I know you're trying to let go of your idea of what your problems are, and perhaps you won't succeed in totally letting go of all your preconceived notions about what your problems are. But it's not necessary. Isn't that great news? It's not necessary that you succeed in letting all your preconceived notions go about what your problem is. So what is necessary? What is necessary? What is necessary? I'm going to tell you what's necessary. All that is necessary, all that is necessary, all that is necessary, all that is necessary, all that is necessary is to entertain some doubt. Entertain some doubt about the reality of what your version of what your problems are. All that is necessary is to entertain some doubt about the reality of your version of what your problems are. So what does that mean? Tell yourself, my problem may not be what I think the problem may not be what I think the problem is. You want to entertain some doubt about your version of what you think the problem is. Tell yourself, I may not be upset for the reason I think. I may not have this so-called problem for the reason I think. Just start to entertain some doubt that you may not be correct about what you think the problem is. If you want the problem solved, entertain some doubt about the reality of your version of what the problem is. What are you trying to recognize? What are you trying to recognize? What are you trying to recognize? Well, you are trying to recognize that you have been given the answer by recognizing the problem. So you want to recognize the problem so that the problem and the answer can be brought together. And when you bring the answer to the problem, you can be at peace. When you bring the real answer to the real problem, then you can, by recognizing the problem, which is separation, you can bring the problem to the answer so the problem can be solved. So when you bring the real problem to the real answer, that's when you can be at peace. Guess what? If you're not at peace, it just means you don't recognize what the real problem is. If you're not at peace, it means you don't recognize what the real answer is. So you need to start doubting your version of what you think the problem is. Whatever that problem is, you need to tell yourself, I don't recognize what the problem is or the problem would be solved. So, you want to practice what I'm saying whenever you need it. You will see many problems. You may see many problems. The Course says you will see many problems today, each problem calling for an answer. It will look like you have many situations and issues that you're dealing with. And the Course in Miracles says it will look like each one of these problems are calling for a different answer. So where are our efforts directed towards? Our efforts will be directed toward recognizing. We're going to put all of our efforts into what? I want you to put your effort into recognizing one thing. Put all your efforts into recognizing one thing. There is only one problem and there is one answer. Only one problem and only one answer. I know that's the opposite to what we've been programmed to think or to believe. But the Course in Miracles says our efforts will be directed toward recognizing that there is only one problem and one answer. In this recognition, what recognition? That there's only one problem and one answer. It didn't say some problems. The Course says in this recognition are all problems resolved. That there's only one problem. That problem is separation. And there's only one answer. And that's you're getting rid of every block that keeps you aware of your connection to your source, your connection to your creator, your connection to all that is. Because if you truly knew your connection to God, if you really knew your connection to your creator, to your source, to the divine, no matter what problem that you think you have, that problem would be solved. That problem has already been solved. And in that recognition, there is peace. So don't be deceived. What is it that you are not to be deceived about? Don't be deceived by the form of problems today. Don't be deceived by how your different problems look. And don't be deceived because it looks like you have a financial problem or a relationship problem or a job problem or a health problem. Don't be deceived because it looks like you've got a lot of different problems. So what do? I'm telling you, this is what the Course in Miracles says that you should do if you want to recognize your problem so your problem can be solved. This is what you do. You go, whenever any difficulty seems to rise. I love that. Whenever any difficulty seems to rise. What should you do whenever any problem seems to come up? The Course in Miracles says, tell yourself. Notice that it didn't say, tell somebody else. It says, whenever any difficulty seems to rise, tell yourself. Tell yourself quickly. Tell yourself quickly. What is it that you need to tell yourself quickly? Tell yourself quickly. What is it that you need to tell yourself? Tell yourself this quickly. Let me recognize this problem so this problem can be solved. Let me recognize this problem so the problem can be solved. So as soon as a problem comes up, as soon as an issue comes up, say, let me recognize this problem so this problem can be solved. No matter what the problem is, whatever the problem appears to be, say to yourself as quick as you possibly can, as soon as the problem comes up, say, let me recognize this problem so it can be solved. Then do what? Then the Course in Miracles says that what you should do at that point is that you need to try to suspend all your judgment about what you think the problem is. Let go of your judgment about what you think the problem is. The problem has just come up. Say, let me recognize this problem so it can be solved. Then try to suspend all judgment about what the problem is. Try to let go of your idea of your version of what you think the problem is. If possible, what else do? Close your eyes for a moment. Close your eyes for a moment and ask what the problem is. I've got this problem that just seemed to have come up. I should say as quickly as I possibly can, let me recognize this problem so this problem can be solved. Then I'm going to try to suspend my judgment about what I think the problem really is. Actually, what I'm going to try to do is take a breath, close my eyes, and ask what the problem is. Ask what the problem is. Don't assume you already know what the problem is. If you got a financial problem or a relationship problem or a health problem or a spiritual problem, stop telling yourself that you actually know what the problem is. Because if you really knew what the problem was, then the problem would be gone. And if you still see the problem, then even if you think you recognize what the problem is, you really don't recognize what the problem is yet. Even though I've told you what the problem is according to the course, that doesn't mean you necessarily believe it or recognize it yet. But you don't have to believe it. That's what I said at the very beginning. The guidelines say you don't have to believe it. It's just telling you what to tell yourself. And you should tell yourself this whether you believe it or not, whether you understand it or not. Soon as some difficulty come up, soon as some situation that you see as a problem comes up, quickly tell yourself, let me recognize this problem so this problem can be solved. Then try to suspend all judgment about what you think the problem is. If possible, close your eyes for a moment and then just ask the universe, ask spirit, what is the problem? And you will be heard. You will be answered. So I'm going to do a quick recap of this. I want to, in just a moment, so hang in there. I want to thank you for tuning in to my broadcast. I'm a full-time teacher and I do it on a donation basis so that what I teach is available to anybody regardless of their financial situation. But it is what I do full-time in the world. So if you like to share, make a financial expression of appreciation, then go to my website, www.earlpurdy.com, P-U-R-D-Y, earlpurdy.com, and you could make a donation there. And if you use Venmo, any of the cash apps, then you could just recognize that my email address is earlpurdy@earlpurdy.com. Thank you in advance. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm available for one-on-one sessions called Clarity Sessions. I'm available for one-on-one sessions called Clarity Sessions, where I show you how to actually apply this to your physical reality, the situations that you're in. I've also been a professional astrologer and numerologist for higher consciousness and getting in touch with your soul purpose for being here and then expressing what that is. I do clarity sessions. If you'd like to have a one-on-one session and find out more about my personal sessions, go to my website and look under clarity sessions, and you can self-book an appointment with me right there online. So on Sundays at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, I do another Facebook Live Course in Miracles presentation on the Earl Purdy page on Facebook, on the Earl Purdy page on Facebook. Like my page and follow my page so that you can be aware of what I'm doing and notified when I come online live. Please share these videos. This is a very powerful, important lesson. It's awesome, actually. So I'm going to take a couple of minutes to just drive home what we're being told to do right now. So this is what you do. Check it out. One of the most important things you can do right now, according to what we heard in this presentation, is to stop telling yourself that you have many different problems that need many different answers. Stop telling yourself that you have many different problems that need many different solutions. Because when you tell yourself you have many different problems that need many different solutions, the Course in Miracles says that you are using a perception that's going to make your problem solving totally inadequate, and you're going to fail. So if you keep looking at problems the way that everybody else looks at problems, and the way that other people look at problems is that they believe that they've got a lot of different problems that are calling for a lot of different answers. And do you know that the Course in Miracles says that is the perception that keeps your problems from being solved? That if you want to go to the next level of problem solving, you tell yourself that you have only one problem, and it may be taking many different appearances, but you only have one problem. And what did the Course in Miracles say that one problem was? The Course in Miracles says that that one problem is separation. Your one problem is separation. Your one problem is thinking that you're separate from God. Your one problem is that if you didn't think you were separate from God, you wouldn't see yourself as having any problems. If you knew your connection to the divine and your connection to yourself, your higher self, then that problem would already be solved in your perception. So the Course in Miracles is saying whenever you have a problem, it's because you don't know your connection to Source, and you're not tuning into your relationship to your Source, and you're not listening to the guidance of your Source. And you have to develop the ability to communicate with your Source, because the way to communicate with your Source is not the way that we communicate in our little separate identities. The Course in Miracles, or any spiritual path that is a legitimate spiritual path, is really going to teach you how to heal your sense of separation from God, your sense of separation from your higher power. And this is not religion. I'm not talking religion. This is not religion. This is spirituality. It's based on what you are. It's based on what you are. It's based on what you are. So here we go. Take one more minute to make sure that we do. I'm going to make sure that we do what it's saying. First of all, what do you do? First of all, what do you do? Don't be deceived by the form of problems today. Do not be deceived. What do you mean? No matter what the appearance of your problems are, no matter what the appearances of your problems are, no matter what you look like, no matter what your problems look like, don't be fooled by what appears to be many different problems that need many different answers. Don't be fooled by what looks like you have many problems or different problems that need different answers. What do you do? I'm going to tell you what you do according to the Course. Whenever any difficulty seems to come up in your life, this is what you do. Whenever any difficulty or problem seems to come up in your life, this is what you do. Anytime any difficulty seems to rise, tell yourself quickly, tell yourself quickly, tell yourself quickly, tell yourself quickly, let me recognize this problem so this problem can be solved. Let me recognize this problem so this problem can be solved. Let me recognize this problem so this problem can be solved. Let me recognize this problem so this problem can be solved. Let me recognize this problem so this problem can be solved. Let me recognize this problem so the problem can be solved. Try to suspend your judgment about what you think the problem is. Try to suspend your judgment about what you think your problem is. Close your eyes if you can. Close your eyes. Close your eyes for just a moment. And then you ask what the problem is. These are the steps. And you will be heard. And you will be answered. Let me recognize this problem so this problem can be solved. Mighty companion, listen to this at least 4 times. Right here, it doesn't matter if you understand exactly how your problem is going to be solved. It's okay if you can let go of all your preconceived notions about what you think your problem is. That's okay. Just do this. It says, whenever any difficulty seems to rise, tell yourself quickly, let me recognize this problem so it can be solved. Just do it. Just remember to do it. All right. It's okay for things to be easier for you. It's okay for things to be easier for you. I love you. I appreciate you. And mighty companions, may the Course be with you. Please share this video. Love you.